welcome to Maximal Fire. I'm Alex.
And I'm Johnny.
And today we are going to be doing a Legio deep dive again, but this time on Legio Tritonis. I wonder who collects Legio Tritonis, Johnny?
Who knows, right?
Who...
The battle report isn't out yet, so everyone else probably doesn't know. But I collect Legio Tritonis.
Yes, you do. That's been your little pet project over the last month or so. And obviously trying to keep Johnny happy. You know, got to feed him a bone every now and again. We had Legio Vulpo last time. We're doing Legio Tritonis this time. But both of those, obviously, two really popular, really good Legios, which we hadn't covered before. So makes sense us looking at them. It's been a while though, hasn't it?
Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah. It has been too long. Yeah. I think I speak for both of us when I say that life has been busy.
Yeah, it has, and obviously we have to sort of coincide these times when we're both available to, and for a sizable amount of time to record these things. And last time that we did try and record this sort of mid-November, but we had the mother of all tech issues and it just wasn't working for us. And in the end, we had to just sack it off and try and reschedule. And it sort of worked in our favour because in the middle of that, we got to record another bat rep. So there'll be a battle report coming. This will probably be out before the next battle report.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah. So that is why it has been a while. I think the last time we recorded a bat rep, a podcast, I think was the end of September, which is criminal, really. But if you have been checking out our YouTube, and actually we did do it as a podcast as well, we have been putting supplemental content out in the interim, and I think that might be a format that we start doing when new stuff comes out. So there was a video that I did on a matched play guide, which was released, I think, on the day of release or the day after release.
Day after, yeah, something like that.
Which was awesome to do. It meant that...
Thank you, Games Workshop, for not sending us that as well.
Wait, look.
Just ticking it off the list.
I'm just going to say, right, you know, we didn't get sent one, and I still got a very detailed review out within a few days of the content going live, right? So imagine what we could do with a bit of a heads up. That would be fantastic, wouldn't it be? But we're not bitter. We're not upset.
No, not at all. No.
We will always try and get this stuff as soon as we can and put our thoughts out there. But we thought it was better that way, because then you don't have to kind of listen through a big podcast if you just want to hear about the new stuff. And it also meant, not that I obviously didn't want to invite you to that particular piece of videography, Johnny, but again, schedules, and it's sometimes easier to just get on and record one.
Yeah, I think, you know, like you said, it's nice to have a format that isn't just us chatting
nonsense
for a couple of hours or so. So yeah, you know, definitely something we kind of want to push, just like a lot of shorter form videos, and then just have, you know, the hopefully monthly longer video of us just talking absolute rubbish for as long as you'll keep us playing, basically.
And Anchor, which is the podcast system that's tied into Spotify that we use, it does now allow for video podcasts as well. So when we record these for YouTube, the same video podcast also goes onto Anchor, which automatically converts it into a regular podcast. So it kind of works for the best of both ways. But you may see some of these kind of bite-sized. I think it was still 40 minutes, that particular one. But we'll look to probably split those out from the general ramblings going forward. And it will only happen, obviously, if there's new stuff coming out. So, I mean, I don't think we're overcommitting there, considering we had 2 major releases last year.
Yeah, I was going to say, when new stuff does come out, you know, obviously.
Yeah, it would be nice. It would be nice to have new stuff, but but yes, we will obviously try and do those a little bit more. So hopefully that's kind of filled the void a little bit between the 2 podcasts since the last one. Again, apologies, it's taken us so long to kind of get this one out. We do try and do them monthly, but sometimes, especially kind of when it comes up towards the end of the year, It does get a little bit tricky. Yes. So anyway, that's a little bit of a brief plug for all the other stuff that we're doing at the moment. And if you are a YouTuber, a YouTube consumer, do go onto YouTube and give us an old like and subscribe. We are very, very close, actually, to the magic one. I say close. We're within stretching distance of the magic 1,000 subscribers. And if you don't know how it particularly works, when you hit 1,000 and you hit a certain amount of watched hours of your video content, then YouTube will actually start paying you a little bit of money for your trouble. And we obviously, it's not the primary reason that we do this, but if we can get the corporations to start paying us a handful of pounds for doing these things, that would be lovely. So I think the last time I looked, we were about 740.
Yeah.
So really close, pushing into that second half. Well, not second half, fourth quarter of the where we need to be.
We don't see a penny of the money that we normally get anyway from Patreons, because it just goes to basically improving all of the stuff we release.
I thought you were going to say I don't get to see any of the money from the Patreon because Alex spends it all on terrain.
No. But it does go towards paying for stuff like terrain. We don't want to be just using the same setup every time in our battle reports, and it helps us get a bit more tech as well to record better content. That's
where it's pretty much all gone recently. Sort of our I was going to touch on this later on, but our tournaments are getting bigger. We like to be self-sufficient as much as we can. We do have a lot of people who contribute tables to our tournaments, but as part of that, we reinvest a lot of the money that we get in, which doesn't go on like tech and like subscribing for the applications that we use for video editing and photo editing and all that kind of stuff. It does go back in to being able to do tournament boards, essentially, as well as, like you say, I think we've managed a unique board, I think, on every bat rep that we've done, and we've still got stuff up our sleeve from before. So we like to bring a bit of variety, which is good. Do give us a like and subscribe on Facebook. And if you want to be part of the community, we do have our Discord server as well. Doing really well. I think we're pushing again 500 people on that. It's always active. Always active. There's been a real I don't know what's happened recently. I think it might be the Clash of the Titans thing, to be honest, that's going on at the moment. The Battle Bling are running. But there's been a big surge of new people joining that, which is lovely to see. And not only people joining it, but new people contributing as well.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's I mean, we always talk, glowing reviews about everyone on our Discord. It basically just self-moderates at this point because people are just so nice and chill on there.
I think the moderators have got a very, very easy job, which is why I don't suffer them complaining about anything. And normally when there's complaints to be made, it's usually about me. Rather than the people on the server.
I've considered banning you a few times as well. But,
maybe I need to remove your admin privileges so that I can rule with an iron fist. Change my title to Overlord or something. Yes. So check out the Discord as well. We're holding, as part of Clash, regular hobby hangouts on the Discord as well, which is a lot of fun. We get guys from across the community joining that. Battle Bling guys are on there all the time as well. It's a good opportunity to ask questions, get tips, and generally it's one of the best ways that you can spend your time painting trim, because you can get over that monotonous part of whatever it is you're painting. In my case, trim. It might not be your thing that you hate the most. But you can shut off that kind of brain and just chat and listen and not get too focused and just allow the painting to happen over the course of the night. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, 100%.
So sponsor updates, usual guys, Battle Bling and Grimdark, both doing some pretty exciting stuff. The big one for Battle Bling is obviously Clash of the Titans.
Oh yeah.
This is the third one that they've done. The second public one. So if you don't know what Clash of the Titans is, basically it started as basically a reason for myself and Johnny and a bunch of other guys across the community to essentially do a Tale of Four Gamers type thing. Well, it started as a Tale of Four Gamers. We were going to create like a maniple. It was myself, my old co-host Ben, and a couple of guys from our local community, and it grew out steadily and incorporated a couple of other Instagrammers from the local area who we didn't know beforehand, Johnny being one, our friend Oliver being another, our friend Dan being another one of those, and if I've forgotten anybody else, I'm sorry. But yeah, it was I think it was 8 of us. We all decided to start a new Legio, and that's what we were going to do, and we were holding ourselves to like monthly challenges, and then as we kind of got more established, I think, because that happened right at the start of when Maximal Fire was created, Battle Bling decided that, or not decided, discussed with us the idea of making it a sort of global thing, and that they would provide some kind of unique perks and things that they can sell to the community to kind of give them like bonus gear, I guess, that was available. And there was an opportunity for people to win prizes as well. And every week the Battle Bling guys would choose a winner from the people using the hashtag AT Clash of the Titans hashtag, and whoever won would win some bling. And it was very, very popular. And it was a little bit later this time around because we did this originally last summer, but they've just started again with Clash of the Titans 2022, which runs from now. It's been running all of or for halfway through November, and it runs through to February. Basically, I think it coincides quite nicely with the beachhead tournament that we've got. It's kind of like around the end date. So they've stepped it up a notch as well, and they are selling these Clash packs, and there's 2 flavors of Clash pack. You've got the Traitor Clash pack and you've got the Loyalist Clash pack, and within each of them there is a set of, is it 4 unique objectives. I've got them on the table behind me. You probably can't see them very well, but they're really, really cool 3D printed resin objective markers, all to 32mm, which is the standard now, which has been there since Open Engine War, but it was like reaffirmed as part of the match play guides. So you get the resin objective markers. They also threw in there a resin scenic item. It's a little, if you're old enough to remember the fire base, the cardboard fire base from the late 90s, early noughties, 40k. That's what that's based on. It's a little bit of nostalgia. You've got a hobby bingo card, whoop whoop, which is purely for the lols. There's no, you don't win anything.
No prize.
But there's loads of things on there, like, you know, watch one of our videos, subscribe to one of our videos, join one of our Discord hangouts, and other things not sponsored by Maximal Fire. But you needn't worry about those. Focus on the Maximal Fire stuff. And what else?
If you just tick off all of the Maximal Fire ones,
it gives you a sense of enormous pride in yourself for what you have achieved. And Johnny also asked me to write a micro campaign. So there is a little micro campaign in there. He gave me 3 days to write it. Thanks, Johnny. And yeah, we've done it in like the style of a sort of fighting fantasy novel. So if you play the first game, if you win, you go to entry number 333. If you lose, you go to entry number 444 or something. Just a little bit of fun. But yeah, basically just encouraging people to play games, to do hobby, and generally hang out. So hashtag AT Clash of the Titans 2022 is the current hashtag. If you bought a Clash pack, then you are eligible to win prizes on a weekly basis, same as before. And I believe there is I think that I want to say, don't quote me on this, I want to say that they're basically kitting out people's entire mana pools of Titans with their nameplates as prizes. So good way to get your nameplates for free. Contribute, put some stuff online. Hopefully you'll get their eye and you'll win something.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, have you been doing anything for Clash?
Oh well. So as you may have realised, I have recently made a Tritonis Legio, and basically the day I finished painting and building it ready for some practice games and the battle report, Clash was announced. So in spirit of not having too much plastic and kind of giving up on the idea of doing too much trim, I have gone to build a board instead as my Clash entry, which will obviously be used in our tournament at Beachhead.
You were just a bit keen, that was it, wasn't it? You just wanted to get a head start.
I was just way too excited, and it was really annoying actually. But time constraints, what they were. I had a good amount of time off in, before that to get it all painted. So I'm going to do a snowy board. Kind of a lot of AT boards are either industrial or have like a lot of man-made structures, and I want to do a kind of just like a mountainous, almost wilderness
or natural,
maybe like Himalayas, like Siege of Terror vibes going on with it. So I'm going to get some like aquarium decorations as well. There are some like Buddhist kind of statues that are overgrown but would like kind of suit the vibe once you add a bit of snow flock to them and stuff like that. So yeah, it's going to be pretty cool. I haven't quite figured out how I'm going to do the spread of scenery and get all those rocks, but yeah,
it'll be a lovely contrast as well, because like you say, all of our boards at the moment are either sort of grey city boards or kind of Marsy boards are quite common, and we've got a desert board, so a nice bright white snow board. It'll be, I think it'll look really interesting on the bat reps.
Yeah, definitely. That's it. I mean, we used the mat already for the one that's coming up. Spoiler alert. But none of the scenery of it as well. So it should be pretty cool. What about yourself? What are you contributing to this Clash?
Well, I'm using this to finally sort out my warbreaker. So if you're watching on YouTube, you can see the current progress behind me. I've pledged that by the end of the year I'll have that finished, and then for January and February I will either be finishing my much neglected Legio Tempestus, which are currently relegated to the bottom of my display cabinet, rather than actually having anywhere of pride, because there's only two of them. But it may come down to terrain building and terrain painting, just as we come into the run up to Beachhead. We'll have to see, I think. But the Warbreaker has been amazing, but a real challenge. That obviously, like, it's the size of a Warhound Titan from 40k, and but it's got the detail of everything that you would expect from an AT model. Like the cathedral alone, which sits on the top, I painted the cathedral first, and that probably took me between 30 and 40 hours to complete that. I am a bit of a perfectionist when it comes to trim, and there was so much trim.
You were an absolute you're a monster when you do trim. How many layers of paint?
Seven, I think it is. Yeah.
The trim. Okay.
Yeah. But then
we create our own hells.
Yeah, we do. I certainly do. My way of dealing with that is whenever anybody asks how do you paint trim, I provide them the video that I did for Battle Bling, where I show it was like my way of painting nameplates, and I was like, well, this is how I paint nameplates. This is how I also paint trim. You should do it like this, and it's like one more person who is now gonna share my pain with me. But yeah, since getting the cathedral done, it's coming along so much faster. The armor plates, obviously much bigger areas, so they were a bit quicker to do the trim for. I've done all of the shoulders, all of the upper body. I've just got the legs to do, the head, and then the 2 gun arms to finish off. So fantastic model. I can't wait to get it finished. It's one of those projects, I don't know if you kind of get the same sometimes, but I painted it, I put it up on my shelf because it's exactly 5mm too tall to fit in my display cabinet.
No.
So it has to go on top of the display cabinet. I think I might have to put like a protective sheath over the top of it to stop it getting covered in dust. But it's one of those ones that, you know, when you're quite proud of what you've done and you have to keep like nipping into the room to just sit back and look at what you've done.
Mm-hmm.
That's been me the last week.
Absolutely hate painting it.
Yeah.
But when you put it down afterwards, you're like, all right, okay.
And that's it. Yeah. It's one of those things where I know that I've tortured myself on how long it's taken me to paint, but I'm happy with where it's going. And so I will be continuing that. I'm hoping to have all of the leg panels done by the end of next week. And that, well, ultimately it comes down to how long it takes me to edit this video, as to whether or not I get that done by next week or not. And then the gun arms as well, and then it's just the base. And I've gone for a 200mm oval base for these, which are fairly difficult to get hold of, but Tarot Model Maker does some, so I'm using his bases for that, and it does look the business. I know when we were designing it with Chris, we were the only ones we could really find were circular ones, and I think, I'm not sure if Chris's is on a circular one or if he moved it over to an oval, but I do much prefer the oval mechanics in an AT compared to a circular one, because you get the potential for collision. Scale 15 collision hits, anyone? Yes, please.
No.
Yeah. But yes, that's my pledge, and then hopefully I will get it done. Obviously, we can't win anything. That's the only downside.
Yeah.
I've been sent all the stuff, but I can't actually win anything, sadly. But that's not the point. The point is having that support network around you, is having other people doing the same things as you, keep yourself motivated. We do the hobby hangouts related to this, so we can, again, opportunities to get together. I'm hoping we'll get time to do another one before Christmas, but it'll come down to schedules. It's Christmas party season and all that kind of stuff, so there's lots going on, lots of family time as well, which is obviously important.
Yeah, definitely. I think Clash is good as well. You know, everyone paints the quickest and best a few days before a tournament, right? So it kind of gives you those goals to kind of, you know, you haven't got infinite amount of time to do it. You've got to do something by this time, which yeah.
And I think if you are kind of like thinking about getting into it, or if you have got it and you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed, that is the way to do it. You set yourself a monthly challenge. You don't think, well, in the next 3 months I'm going to paint this maniple. You're going to say, right, well, okay, well, this month I'm going to paint this, and I'm going to chuck in a stretch goal for myself. So if I get that done and well in advance, I'm going to try and finish this thing as well. And then you do that every single month. So for me, it was this by the end of the year. And then in January, it was going to be a Warlord Titan for Tritonis. And then in February, it was going to be a Corrupted Reaver and another Warhound, just to kind of give myself something to really push for and try and tick off as much as I can, as quickly as I can. But also, again, like, not necessarily doing it quicker, but like focused activity that's intense periods of effort. That's how I work anyway.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Diamonds are formed under pressure, right?
Absolutely. Well, you don't want to put yourself under too much pressure, but
yeah, no.
But you know, it's still got to be enjoyable. But yeah, it's nice to have a goal, and it's a lot easier when you've got people doing the same thing and there to support you and feedback on the awesome work that you're doing.
Oh yeah.
Should we talk Grimdark?
Go for it.
Yeah, so it's been a couple of months again since we talked about the Grimdark stuff. My 3D printer has sadly been out of action. I pierced the FEP on mine, standard, and I've got some damp issues in my garage, which means that I've not been able to do any 3D printing, which is absolutely torturous, because some of the stuff which has been released in the last couple of months by Bronco has been incredible. The biggest ones to talk about really are his Ordinatus kits. So he's released 2 now. There was one in October and another one in November. And they're just massive. He's taken the old style of Ordinatus from Epic, but they were, I think back then they were kind of like massively out of scale, because Epic was sort of like it's whatever it needs to be scale, rather than it being actually sort of held to anything. And so he's released, I forget the name of the actual specific types, and diehard fans of Epic are going to probably shout at me right now, but there's one Ordinatus kit which has got some massive fortress cracking rocket launchers on the back of them, and there's another one which has got a sonic cannon, and it's again fantastic stuff coming out of Grimdark. It kind of got me as excited as the Samson did, and I was a massive fan of the Samson back in the day. It's the next kit which is really kind of got my juices flowing, so to speak, for 3D printing, and I can't do anything. I can't print anything. It's so frustrating. Because the
3D printing is a love-hate relationship, isn't it? It's just absolutely torturous.
It really is. But yeah, he's done that, and he's also added some additional kind of building additions for I think it's the Argus range. So you can take some of the things on the Argus, like airfield based stuff that he was doing, and now there's additional options for emplacements, which you can put the sonic cannon launcher thing on top of like a static emplacement as well, which looks really, really nice. So yeah, if you haven't heard of Grimdark, they are like one of the best providers of 3D printed terrain for Adeptus Titanicus. The quality is amazing, designed for 3D printing in resin. But I've recently had my eyes opened to the world of FDM printing, and I've had a lot of people tell me that his stuff prints really well on FDM as well. So I did another review on the channel for Wargame Forge, who did some FDM designed ruined buildings, and I was very impressed with that as well, the sort of quality you can get out of FDM. So I'm now on the lookout for an FDM printer. So I don't think I would paint like the Ordinatus print the Ordinatus with FDM, but the idea of being able to print like a building structure in one go, rather than individual pieces, that definitely appeals, which people are telling me is kind of like one of the ways forward with printing his stuff, because it can get expensive, of course, the amount of resin that and resin's nasty, smelly stuff.
Oh God, it's horrible.
But it does look amazing. But then but on the flip side, people say that 3D printing with FDM is high maintenance, but it may be high maintenance, but at least I can have that inside. Whereas the resin has to live outside in the cold, and then the supports fail, and I get problems and pierce my feps. But that's probably just because I'm crap at 3D printing, and I should take care of my printer better. Who knows?
Oh yeah. No, I walked in the room that I have the 3D printer in, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll do some 3D printing today, and it was pretty sure it's colder than it is outside, which is -4 at the moment. Yeah. And I was like, nope. Got to wait for it to warm up, or it's just not going to print.
Yeah, it means that I'm going to be buying a lot of terrain, I think, for next year, for Beachhead, I think, in the short term, because I can't usually start printing again until around about March, when it warms up again, unfortunately. But yeah, do check out Grimdark. Amazing stuff as always. I don't know if it's still on. He was having a Black Friday sale. These things do pop up throughout the year. I think he does a summer one often as well. So if you're missing STL packs, then you can get one at a significant discount then. But yeah, check out Grimdark, and yeah, get yourself a 3D printer. It's really is made for Titanicus. Okay, so again, it's been a long time since our last update. So very quickly, we owe a few patron shout outs. We give this as part of everybody who subscribes to our Patreon. We have 3 tiers: £1, £3 and £5. The £3 level, you get yourself 10% discount code off of Bling. So if you are a purchaser of Battle Bling. It's a great way of getting a little bit of a cheeky discount off of the stuff that they're doing. And we've recently introduced as well a new perk for the £5 tier, because previously the £5 was a we love you loads. It's the same as the £3 tier, but if you want to show us some extra love, then you can give us £5 instead. And I wanted to give the guys a little bit more, because all they got really for their money was a credits in our videos and in our show notes and descriptions. So the guys at Battle Bling are working on some STLs which will be exclusive to ourselves and to our Patreon. And when I was discussing this with John from Battle Bling, we were thinking, well, there's a massive part of the game which kind of gets quite underutilized, and that is that when Titans go kaboom and like properly magdet or melt down, like they're supposed to leave a crater, and that is supposed to be is it dangerous terrain? I think it is difficult and dangerous terrain, and it's not an optional rule. It's technically in the main rules. But it's something which often doesn't get kind of thought about, doesn't get utilised. And the reason is you've got to think about actually buying terrain to take with your Legio and bring with you. So the guys at Battle Bling have been working on a series of STLs for basically destroyed Titans. And we've got the first of those up now. And if you are a backer of our Patreon at the £5 level, there is a post which is locked to those people on the Patreon, and there is an attachment which within it is an STL for you to download and for you to keep. We will be adding more of those when the guys finish designing them, but obviously they have to design these around their day jobs as well. But there you go. So we wanted to add a little bit more. Obviously you could back us at £5, get the free STL, and then hopefully downgrade to something else, the £3 maybe, and still keep your discount code, or just take what you need and then leg it. However you want to do it.
The pirate's life for me.
Yeah. But I decided as well that because we were offering this, and also now that we're doing a few more YouTube videos, we are now adding all of our patrons to our video credits. So it doesn't matter if you are a £1 backer, a £3 backer, or a £5 backer, your name will be in the credits of our videos. Obviously, the £5 backers get it a little bit bigger, a little bit fancier. But we wanted to be able to show our thanks, because we've been going now for the best part of, I think the Patreon's been going for the best part of 18 months now. We've had some people who've been backing us all the way, which is really incredible. And really humbling, and like I said, like we don't really benefit from what it is. We try and sink those funds back into the shows that we're doing. It obviously does help us kind of buy the products that we need to review. So if something new comes out, for instance, we can buy that Titan, so we can make sure that we've got it straight away. We keep that pool of money available so that we've got that content available to us as soon as possible. And I don't have to have arguments with the wife about why am I spending, the child's dinner money on Titans. Which does help. But yeah.
We won't run into that problem when Games Workshop starts sending us their new release.
Which is inevitable, right? It's inevitable. It's going to happen.
Keep banging on that drum until they listen.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
Don't they know who we are? I mean,
everyone knows who we are, darling.
Kind of a big deal, at least in Bournemouth. Massive in Bournemouth.
Maybe in certain sections of Bournemouth.
Yeah. Enough said about that. But yeah, if you do want to show some love, you do enjoy watching our videos, you do enjoy listening to our podcasts, watching our battle reports, please do consider jumping on the Patreon money and sending us, a little bit to say, to just keep us going, essentially. We didn't really have any events that I wanted to talk about. However, mostly because I was going to wait until the new year. We've been talking in the shows in the past. We've talked about a couple of the events coming up. There's more in the works, but it does often become quite a lengthy section as well. So I wanted to keep this quite sort of succinct today. We obviously have Beachhead, which is fast approaching. Bournemouth International Centre, 11th and 12th of February, which is our first ever team tournament. Now, if you are listening to this and you are attending the Beachhead event, we will be changing our event pack. Changes to that are kind of in the works at the moment. There's not going to be anything substantially different to what you've already signed up for. The format is still the same. The restrictions are still the same. However, we wanted to bring it in line with the matched play guide, which was released in October. So all we've done is we've tweaked a few things in the rules pack. We've brought it in line with if something is outright said in the rules pack, in the tournament guide, then we're aligning ourselves to that. We're aligning our scoring to that. So do keep an eye out for those changes. I'll be putting up a post on Facebook, and also I'll be sticking it up on our Discord when that is available. I'll also be reaching out to anybody who is participating, asking them to provide me with their the contact details of any of their teams, because we only have the principal ticket bookers contact details at this particular point in time. But if you are listening to this and you want to do that kind of proactively, please send me the details, the email addresses and names of your team, just so I can start taking a bit of a head count and sort of looking where we are, because we need to kind of obviously factor in numbers of tables. Which leads me on to an interesting development. I received the said list of people who'd booked tickets earlier on this week, and I noticed that there was a couple of tickets missing, which I knew, which ironically were for the Battle Bling boys, which wouldn't have gone down. Yeah. Now, that's not to worry anybody. I went back out to the to Entoyment. They confirmed basically that they had not sent me the details of the tickets that they'd bought. It turns out that they'd oversold the amount of tickets that we've got. So we thought we were selling 12 tickets. We've actually sold 15, which means we are putting up one additional ticket on the website to take us up to 16 tickets, because we need an even number of teams. Mm-hmm. And kind of both frighteningly and at the same time quite excitingly, this means that Beachhead has just gone from what were the numbers? 30 something player tournament, which was the biggest one that we've ever done, to a 48 player Adeptus Titanicus tournament, which is scaring the bejesus out of me a little bit. It means that I need to find 6 tables worth of terrain. I need to produce that out of my arse somehow in the next 3 months.
Preferably not literally, but
but no, it's a really good problem to have, because we obviously we can do that, and Entoyment are gonna also, they can support that. It means it's going to be the biggest tournament that we've ever run, and I don't know the exact numbers that were involved back in 2019, but I believe it is officially either pretty much on par with the biggest, if not the biggest Adeptus Titanicus specific tournament in the UK so far. Yeah. So, woo, go us.
Well done.
Yeah. So that's going to be amazing. Like
admin error, but actually we'll take it.
It's a good problem to have, right? I mean, like we've never sold out of our events before. Not only have we sold out, but we've sold more than we thought. Which it will mean that we're going to have 16 teams. So there's going to be some proper good banter at that event. And
that was a bit of concern, because obviously it's like a team format, so that's not something that people are used to really in wargaming that much. So I think there was a bit of a concern of actually, are people going to be interested in something like that? But turns out
Well,
You guys
yeah,
love it.
yeah. I mean, we've taken some liberties with the match play guide because it's not the same. Like there's a doubles format in the match play guide, but there's no team rules in there. So we've kind of decided to go. We like doing things which other people haven't tried before, or it's not been tried very often. So that's why we thought a team format would be good. Teams of 3. We're basically using the match play guides. Secondaries, primaries, but what we've done is we've split each of those missions and each of those primaries, each of those secondaries between 3 team roles, and those roles are attacker, skirmisher, and defender. And the idea between each round is that you and your team will decide which of your 3 legios are going to act in each of those roles, and each of those roles will have access to different secondaries and different primaries. So you might want to kind of like go for the role which suits your legio. Like if you're Vulper, for instance, you probably want to be an attacker, for instance. If you are somebody like Legio Ignatum, you've got like a Fortis Maniple or something, then a defender might suit you. And then you are in your games matched against your opposite number of the team of comparable skill. So if your team is 1 and their team is 2, then rather than matching individuals against individuals, you get matched role to role. So I think it'll add a nice bit of variety and hopefully almost like a little bit of a narrative to an otherwise competitive tournament. The only caveat being you can't play the same role back to back. So you couldn't go attack, 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 attack. You would have to go at least attack, skirmish, attack, so to speak. So we're quite excited about how that's going to come out. I'm going to draft in some additional help to ref it, and yeah, I think it's going to be awesome. I'm really looking forward to it.
No, it's going to be wicked.
Should we give a quick update on the bat rep?
Oh. Yeah.
Next one. Do we want to talk about the old one first? As that's been out for a while now. Shall we quickly touch upon?
We'll do it quickly.
Just gloss over it.
So
Johnny's debut in front of the camera on a bat rap. How did it go?
Are we going to get the public apology now, or are we sweeping that under the rug? It went awfully, to put it lightly. Vulper. Wow, I mean, this is, spoilers if you haven't watched the Vulper bat rep
It's been out for a month, so I think that,
I know, but just in case, you never know. I don't want to inadvertently. Yeah, I lost awfully, like really badly. Like I got absolutely stomped, and look at him with smug little face. I would argue that there are a couple of gamey decisions.
What? How dare you?
Such as a melee versus melee Legio, only he brings a shit ton. Oh, a ton.
It's all right. You can swear.
Yeah, that's it. We got ease into it.
It's not made for kids. It's fine.
No, exactly. Yeah, took a ton of ranged weapons in a melee brawl. So I think really, you may have won the battle, but I won the heart of
you won the moral victory, did you?
Of the people, yeah, exactly.
So I was purely trying to demonstrate the fact that Laniascara are very good at close combat, but they can also do other things.
Yeah,
they are the versatile close combat Legio.
Like the shutdown of my orders as well. Just demonstrating how to.
It was a teachable moment.
Lots of demonstrating in that game.
It was a teachable moment.
I'm not bitter. I am bitter. Very bitter, man.
I got a lot of abuse on Discord.
Mm-hmm. My favorite was the I hate Vulper, but I felt sorry for them in this bat rep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the worst part of it was I had to basically relive the trauma again while editing it. It
was a counselling moment, surely.
Yeah. But I don't get to play a lot. There were definitely some mistakes made rules wise that really kind of threw me down the hole that I was already kind of slipping down. But I still had fun. Like, it was still a really fun game.
That's the point, isn't it? At the end of the day.
In the podcast before, and even at the beginning of the bat rep, I'm like, this is an all melee list. Is it meant to work? No. But when it does, it is so much fun. And it didn't work. And
that's it. You only see these things once, don't you? And I mean, you won't see another version of that game until we bring Vulpa back in the future and do another game against somebody else. So you can't really base your opinion on the Legio on that purely on that one bat rep.
Because I'm definitely not the best Vulpa player either. So it's not even like it's competitive.
Yeah, I am. I am sorry, but as I said, at the time as well, like I had this card in front of me because we were still playing with the old open war cards at this point on this one, and I was like, do I take this or don't I take this? And I thought, on one hand, it's dirty and it's mean, and it makes you a bad person. But on the flip side, there's a lot of people out there who I know, because I've spoken to people who really struggle against combat legios, and they don't know kind of like how to nullify them. And there is a little bit of a stigma, I think, around the use of, in particular, the stratagem Vox Blackout. And that, I think, stems back to when it used to be a 1-point stratagem, and it was disgusting. Like, what you could do for 1 point was gross. It's now 3 points. It's a sizable investment of your stratagem pool to use Vox Blackout, but it is one of the best ways to at least take the edge off of a melee legion, melee legio. And you've got to remember as well is that if you don't stop them in the turn that you play it, then they're going to charge you the next turn. So
and they will kill you. Yeah.
So I wanted to show it as this is what you can do against to try. This is my story, and this is what I'm sticking to. Okay, that's what I'm sticking to.
As long as it's making you feel better.
It is. It is making me feel better.
Good. Okay. In summary, though, really good fun.
Yeah.
I kept going for heads, and I was like, I remember this working so much better at the tournament. I forgot the rending on the chain fists that gives you the +3 or +D3 strength when you roll a 6. Obviously, you're rolling so many dice that you occasionally get a 6. That's where you fish for the higher damage hits to the heads from. But yeah, that was a hidden mistake that I picked up even after editing. I was like, wait. Just looking at my cards while I was trying to sort out the Tritonis stuff, and I was like, damn.
Oh dear. But then we came back, didn't we? And we a couple of weeks ago we recorded the new bat rep, which is Legio Audax versus Legio Tritonis. And this one was the first time that we decided we were going to use the new match play rules. So it took us out of our comfort zone a little bit. It was still new to us. We've still only played probably about half a dozen games or so with the new match play rules. So I think it took us a little bit longer to kind of get used to what we were supposed to be doing with the primaries and secondaries. There's a bit more to consider, isn't there?
On the surface, it doesn't really look like there's much change, but actually when you play it, you're like, oh, okay, there's a few more bits you have to consider. There is even time sink into the actual use of stratagems now that you've got an open hand to play from.
And not only that, but you have to, when you're playing open war and you've been used to playing open war, your objective is my objective. So we both know what it is, and we can both remind each other of kind of what we're supposed to be doing. But obviously it was like this in the original before Open Engine War, and they've refined it in the match play guide. Like, you have your own primaries and secondaries, and it does mean that there is a bit more to think about, even though you both had your own secondaries before anyway. But just the fact that you've both got different primaries, it introduces a nice element to the game, but it does mean that you are a bit more personally responsible for making sure that you understand what it is that you're doing.
Notepad and pen definitely needed for games
to start with. Yeah, I'm sure we'll get used to it.
Well, I mean, more for like tracking, your own personal objectives. There's a lot of objectives that you have to like mark down units.
Oh, yeah.
And then like mark down their like designation of whether they're alpha or beta, and then whether they're like sword or shield or something like that. And you're just like, oh god, my brain.
But it's good. It was a really good bat rep. Really enjoyed playing it.
More balanced. I think a lot more balanced.
It really. I don't want to give away too much, but it was testy at times. Like there was some real moments in that. I think for both of us.
I think it's about the longest one we've recorded as well,
because it went the whole way, the whole 5 turns.
Whole 5 turns.
So
we are going to experiment. Yeah, we are going to experiment with some different ways to present the video that aren't massively different, but should speed up the bat rep a little bit.
Yeah.
So once that's out, let us know what you think. If you're happy to sit through a 3 to 4 hour slog of a bat rep, hell yeah. But I think with the times as they are at the moment, not many people have that amount of time to sink in to watch 2 grown men play tiny robots.
Games. I mean, we've always kind of considered it to be. We always like doing it because we talk about why we're doing things, and a lot of the feedback that we've had from people is that they like hearing the thoughts, hearing what we're thinking and why we're doing things. And there's always going to be an element that we'll be able to retain that, but we want to make sure that it's still digestible for people. And I think we're aiming to get our videos down to at least kind of the 2 hour mark, if possible. Sometimes it might go longer than that, but we don't want to be really running much longer than that. Purely to make sure that the most amount of people who can get to watch the video and get to enjoy it and see it all the way through to the end.
Absolutely.
The match play guides is something which is everyone is going to need to provide if they're attending Beachhead. So if you are coming to Beachhead, make sure you pick up a copy of that. It's considered to be part of the Tools of War. But if you haven't bought it yet, I'd recommend picking it up, especially if you are only used to the original rulebook missions. These are so much better. It's a minimal outlay of money. It's pretty affordable. It's not a very big book, but generally speaking, it's very good. There's a few bits in there which I go into details of in the video that we did when we reviewed it, which are a little bit annoying, like missing weapons and stuff. But overall, definitely a good tool to have in your rucksack. So go pick that up. Right. We're very close to kind of moving on to the deep dive at this point into Legio Tritonis, but I just wanted to touch very quickly on a couple of contentious points. So myself and Chris from Tabletop Standards exchange messages fairly frequently, and whenever there's like an ambiguous rule, we always, the first point of call is always to kind of message the other person and get their opinion on it, because we like to stay consistent as well, because we're kind of local meta as well, because they're up in like Chichester, we're down in Bournemouth, so we're within like an hour of each other. We've been on their channel, they've come to our tournament, so we like to keep things kind of consistent, and also to give people the same experience. If they're watching a Maximal 5 video, they're watching a Tabletop Standard video, we like to present the rules in the same way, from what we feel is like how we believe it's supposed to be played. Now, I know some of that is open to interpretation in AT, because there is a bunch of rules which are ambiguous at best and are missing FAQs. So whenever one of those comes up, we try and hash out between us what our opinion is on it, how we think it should be done. We also work quite closely with the guys at Bottom of the Barrel Bat Reps as well. And again, like quite often we're thinking along the same lines anyway. But there was a couple of rules which came up recently. There was what I like to refer to as Arcgate, which happened on Facebook.
Really divided the community.
Yeah, and there was like
we're divided on it.
Yeah, there was like a full-on 2 factions, green versus purple kind of scenario here, and it was down to the way that a rule was written in the book about what counts as being in arc and what is, can you target something and is it in arc? Now the two interpretations of that rule was that some people believed, including ourselves, this is where we came down, that by the way that the rules were written, there was a sentence in there which implied that over half of the base had to be in arc for it to be in the front arc for you to shoot it. And then there was people who also believed that even if a millimetre of a base was in your front arc, then you could target it because it's in that arc. And it seemed to be both factions were kind of like very much kind of at loggerheads against each other. The people who were 2 millimeters in, counts as in, were saying, oh, well, 50% of the base needs to be in, then that's ridiculous. How can you ever do that? And the other people were like, well, if there's 2 millimeters in the base that's ridiculous. How can you contemplate that? I mean, we always played the 50% rule, but we never found it to be a problem because everyone knew that. Everybody moved and maneuvered to accommodate that. So it very rarely came up in a combat situation. But there was that rule, which we were trying desperately to kind of find an answer to. And both of us had some really good ideas and thoughts on that. And then the other one for us came down to interrupts and how stratagems which interrupt timings work and what takes priority over other things. So to give you an example, the obvious one is the warp displacement rule. Use in any phase. Well, what does that mean? And there was another one as well, which was what's it called? Thermal mines. Thermal mines, where it says that when your opponent finishes their move, immediately give them some damage. And the situation there, we were like, well, if you're charging somebody, at what point in their charge can you apply the damage to their legs? Because the wording on a charge is immediately after moving, you attack your opponent. And the thermal mines was like, well, immediately after your opponent stops moving, you do this. So it was a question of, is the move finished when they physically stop moving, or is the move finished when they've finished the entire charge action? So we did send these out. We got in touch with the FAQ team at GW, and on both of these counts, Chris reached out on his, I reached out on ours. Luckily, we, despite doing it on 2 different occasions on 2 different days, we got the same person on the FAQ team, and they provided the ruling. So one of these, I feel like I lost the argument, and on the other one, I feel like I won the argument. So on the arc side of things, GW said that any part of the base can be in arc. So we've held our hands up and said, okay, fine. We've taken that ruling that we had in our Maximal Fire FAQ pack out, and we've basically clarified it in that to align with what we were told by GW.
I mean, it lines up with all their other games as well, right? Yeah. Line of sight with every other game you play at GW is if it touches any part of the base. I'm not too fussed either way, to be honest.
Yeah.
It doesn't irk me that it could be 2 millimeter in, because judging 50% is tricky sometimes, and then you also feel like, let's say you're like 49% out of arc, right? Or
then
you
you
feel
four
like,
plus it, surely.
Leg is literally about to trip my Titan over, and you're telling me I can't shoot him. Yeah. Okay, so I think it was a very like contentious one between the 2 sides, but both have like ridiculous scenarios.
Yeah. It was always going to upset somebody, and the ruling that we got on our question was, around the timings. The example that we gave to them around warp displacement, for instance, was that if somebody begins their action, can you use warp displacement on their turn? And their response was, you can use it on their turn, but not when they have started activating. So your timing for utilizing it in their turn is effectively right before they start their action, or right after they finish their action, in which case it is really just an extension of either your own turn or happening just before your own turn. And the priority in the situation I gave with the thermal mines was that the stratagem would activate prior to the completion of the charge. So you would move, the stratagem would attack the legs, and then they would do the charge. It's a tricky situation, and it's made more difficult when there are conflicting keywords that are saying like immediately. But ultimately, the ruling from them was unless a stratagem specifically says it interrupts, it does not interrupt.
I mean, in my head with these sort of things, if you go to like other game systems, so my like first thoughts on it for the interrupts was like if you look at MTG, for example, Magic the Gathering, you have like a stack of effects, like immediate effects, and they resolve once by priority of who was last to declare them. So, for example, your opponent declares the charge, you then play the thermal mine, so you now have the priority if there are a clash between two immediate actions. So the immediate having the attack and the immediate...
and I guess that kind of is how this works. And there's going to be some traits as well, which would kind of, Legio traits, which would come up across this. And I hear people already, they say, well, the FAQ team is not Games Workshop. The way that I kind of fall down on this is they are more qualified to make those decisions than Alex at Maximal Fire is with his unofficial FAQ. So
even not though, it's a singular voice, right? At the end of the day, it doesn't. They are representing the game. Who cares if they're not actual GW staff or whatever, right? Like they're representing the game from an official front. Therefore, we should all just play the same thing so that we're all got the same kind of meta going on.
Yeah, and that was the reason that we created the unofficial FAQ, right? Was to give people that level playing field that they know that when they're both coming together, they're singing from the same song sheet. But it'd be interesting to see if somebody asks the same questions in exactly the same way that we ask them, and if they get a different response. But with these kind of things, I'm sort of done debating them. We spent a lot of time kind of discussing these and reaching out to people on them. So until GW publish something in their errata or in a book or anything like that, which says anything contrary to what we were told by the FAQ team, then we're going to continue to play it the way that we were told. And that has all been updated in our Maximal Fire FAQ pack. It's not only, it doesn't include just interpretations. There's stuff in there which are commonly kind of forgotten about rules as well. For instance, people often forget that no, you can't take armigers as a banner of knights on their own. You can only take armigers. I did.
What people would that do?
I
exactly.
did.
Come on,
but I've also seen it happen at tournaments. People have rocked up to tournaments, and I've not realised when I checked their lists that this is the case. You need to have a banner of non-armiger knights for every unit of retainers, which are armigers. So again, think little rules like that, which people don't necessarily remember or don't notice. We try and put in there. So yeah, just wanted to make our kind of stance clear there, address that whole kind of debacle, which was a lot of fun over the time. I feel like I lost the ARC debate, but I feel like I won the interrupt debate. So I'm happy. Win some, lose some, right? And I think that it came down pretty fair. I'd be very upset if if I was so out of it and left field in my interpretation that I got everything wrong. But we didn't. We got it about right, more or less. So yeah, do check out if you are running an event, or if you are playing with people you've never played before. Maybe have a look at our Maximal Fire FAQ. It does give you a good kind of, if you can say to somebody, can we play using this rule set, so we both know how we're going to interpret things, there's no nasty surprises when somebody plays something which your local meta plays a different interpretation to. That was the whole point of using it. It also means anyone turning up to our tournaments know in advance how some of these commonly ruled rules are going to be interpreted.
Absolutely.
Right. Take a breath. Are you ready?
I'm always ready.
So I'm going to get ye old trusty Traitor Legion's book in front of me, and as always with these, Man is going to read from a book for a few minutes, and we're going to talk about the Dark Tide Legio Tritonis. So last year, when Ben was still on the show, we did an episode about Legio Venator, and Legio Tritonis are their disgruntled, grumpy little siblings.
Well, I mean, that's a bit, derivative.
Well, do you want to? Well, maybe
true nature.
Maybe you should give a little bit more of an overview of who they are.
Yeah. Okay. Before we get crunchy with the traits and stuff, Legio Tritonis, Dark Tide, as Alex said, were originally once Legio Venator. They hail from a planet called Arachnus, and essentially this planet is like a huge forge world. Horus Heresy happens. Emperor's like, yo boys, back me up. There was a kind of like schism between the two halves of the forge world. Some wanted to kind of not deport all of their titans and lose any defenses, and kind of just act independently. Others, did want to go and help the emperor because it's mankind and all that jazz. Essentially what happened is that the Blackshield or traitor, not really traitor, elements of Venator said, oh yeah, okay, you guys go and help the emperor's crusade, like fight in the Horus Heresy. We'll be back here and we'll like back you up when you need it. They basically did their own drop site massacre, but without having to kill anyone. They just like flushed all the loyalist elements of Venator away, and then reformed themselves as Tritonis, as Dark Tide. Then Horus came along and was like, oh yeah, these guys hate the Emperor, so they must be cool with me. Start doing a load of trade deals. Then Horus leaves, and they're like, actually, we both think, we think you're both pieces of shit, and we're going to just sit on our island of, us, and we're going to look out for ourselves. And we've just, made loads of good trade deals from both sides. They're pretty cool. Their planet is full of giant spiders, which is why Venator is covered in spider symbols and stuff like that, right? So Tritonis and Venator, to a degree, like fighting big, scary spiders and big, scary monsters, which is why a lot of their traits and a lot of their themes are centered around more heavier titans, so warlords, etc., which is really cool because they actually reflect that in the gameplay as well. They're really cool.
They are cool, and they have a really nice color scheme as well, which is always good to see. But these guys are what you essentially class as the only true Blackshield Legio that exists at the moment. They've been bundled in with the traitors, I think, to make up the numbers, so there's the same amount on either side for the book. But as far as Blackshield allegiances go, these guys at the moment are the only canon Legio which are specifically Blackshield. Unfortunately, the Blackshield allegiance ability is just a bit rubbish. And by not choosing loyalist or traitor, you lose out on the loyalist or traitor war gear, you lose out on the loyalist or traitor stratagems, and there is none of that for Blackshield. Like, Blackshield is quite underrepresented and under-supported at the moment. You have the allegiance ability, but then you don't have any Blackshield specific war gear, you don't have any Blackshield specific stratagems. So a lot of people end up taking these guys as traitors rather than as Blackshields or as loyalists, because really Venator are the loyalists.
Yeah, I was going to say, you wouldn't ever play loyalist Tritonis, because that is just Venator.
Well, I suppose you could say, well, this is the loyal heavy side of Legio Venator, maybe at a stretch.
Yeah, but they have different colors and everything. It's
I know.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not. I don't want to. It's everyone else's hobby. There's no gatekeeping here. No. But the little lore stickler in me is screaming to be let out of his goblin cage. The idea of that.
It would be nice to see a bit more support for the Black Shields. I think if they release another book, it'd be nice to see a book on maybe Black Shields and a redoing of the households, night households, or something like that in a new book. That would be nice.
It feels like they've doubled down though with putting them in the traitor book. You know what I mean? Like if that was ever going to be their plan, it seems very weird that they've just gone.
Maybe, but then I do wonder if maybe these were ready and the book was coming out and they didn't want to not include it in something and remove it entirely, and just leave it in the, what was the last book that came out? Crucible of Retribution book. Knowing that there wasn't going to be anything to come for the near future. Perhaps. Who knows? But yes, these are the Black Shield guys. Nobody runs them as Black Shields. Obviously you can if you want to, but from a gamey point of view, there's more negatives than there are benefits, really, to doing it. But the way that you've approached it is you run them as traitors, but then you try not to take anything overly corrupt or anything overly kind of like gribbly.
No corruptions whatsoever. Like, that's what my Vulper's for, right? So yeah, you can bring them traitor, then just don't give them tentacles. You know, like just give them normal war gear. Make them look like relatively well kept Titans. Yeah, and just play it as that. No one should have any issue with you doing that, or at least any more, because now they're in the book. But but they are. If you want to do that, of course, you are more than welcome to do so. But it is one of those legios which, to me, if I'm thinking fluff, there are certain legios in here which to me work really well as fluff corrupt legios, and there are legios in here which not so much. Which to me are more pure in their heresy than it depends which way you consider to be pure heresy. It might be, corruption's maybe the pure heresy, the purest form of heresy might be tentacles and writhing carapaces. But anyway, should we talk about the rules? Yeah, just a bit kind of a amendment on the rules, and with Black Shield as well, is you'll find that a lot of these rules that we go through basically nullify the Black Shield bonuses of command checks anyway. So it's worth keeping that in mind as well if you're looking at running them. Okay,
so the first one here we have Tide of Iron. Oh gosh, it starts with the name of a city, which I'm going to have to try and quickly work out. Ictomia? Does that sound about right to you? Yeah.
Yeah, it's Ictomia.
Ictomia, the first moon of Arachnus, had long ago altered its production capacity in favour of warlord titans, which were better suited to fight the mega arachnids that once plagued Arachnus. Any Legio Tritonis maniple may select a warlord titan in place of any Reaver titan as part of its mandatory components. Note that for the purposes of the maniple's rules, the replacement titan does not count as the titan type it is replacing. So this is the flip side of the Venator rule, which allows you to replace any warlord in the mandatory components with a Reaver.
Yeah. On paper, pretty cool. But actually, when you're building maniples and you're not getting the bonus that the Reaver would have got in that maniple, you realise that it's actually not that great.
There's a couple of standouts here for me, and I know that you've chosen to go a different kind of route. You don't really use this, but from a player perspective, in your case, you specifically took a choice that you didn't want to build loads of Reavers because you'd built and done Reavers as part of your Vulper. So you wanted to go a little bit of a different route, and you wanted to go and what you'll see on the bat rep is Warhounds and Warlords. So you didn't really represent that in the bat rep. But
very true.
But there, for other people, there is less maniples than you think that there probably would be that you would benefit from this. But there is still a reasonable amount. So the standout ones for me are the Corsair. So you could take 3 Warlords in a Corsair maniple, for instance, or even just one. You know, you take the regular sort of 4 Reavers, and then you have one of those which is a Warlord, and being able to move 4 inches backwards or 4 inches to the side with a Warlord is quite a quite a big deal. Or you could go heavier on a Fortis and introduce an extra Warlord instead of the Reaver in a Fortis maniple. The Ferox, the good old tried and trusted Ferox, is another good use for this. And again, you could use, with the models that you've got, you could build a minimum Ferox quite easily using a Warlord, because as per the FAQ, which came out recently as well, the Ferox bonus is within the range of the Titan that is shooting. So a Warlord in Ferox is pretty devastating, because you get that +1 to armor rolls within 10 inches of it, which for a Warlord is a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
But there is obviously there's less than you think it is, because it is only the mandatory components. Axiom, you could have 2 Warlords and an Axiom. You could have, I believe there's a Reaver in the mandatory components of a Precept, or is that in the that in the
yes?
Let's just say possibly in a Precept. I'm going to caveat that with who knows, or I could just flick back in the book and have a quick.
I was trying to find one of the old Precept boxes when I was making this.
No, you couldn't do a Precept because it's an optional as the Reaver. You could do a Janissary.
Said no one ever.
Said no one ever. But you could. You could do a Firmus Light, which is another one of those forgotten ones.
Usually for a good reason.
Yeah, but the thing you've got to kind of watch out for is you couldn't take like a Venator, for instance, Maniple, which would be ironic. A Venator,
really ironic.
A Venator Maniple in a Legio Tritonis, because the Venator specifically says the Reaver Titan gets to shoot when the Warlords the Warhounds drop the shields on a target, because it doesn't get that counts as. You don't get it in that. So really you're looking for those ones which says Titans in this maniple, like the Corsair, like with the Ferox, like with the Axiom, those types of ones which kind of are agnostic to what Titan it is. I think there's some interesting maniples that you can do here. I don't think it's certainly not as good as the Gryphonicus Reaver replacement, which is across anything in the optional or mandatory. And I don't think it's as good as the Venator version of this, where you can swap out a Warlord for a Reaver, and the reason being is that Warlords are expensive. So like with Venator, you can do you could take 3 Reavers, a Warlord, and a Warbringer, and that could be an Extergimus maniple. And you could probably fit that in 1750, and Reavers and an Extergimus are very, very good. But because they're expensive, you'll never get more than, unless you're absolutely crazy with your loadouts, like Johnny Cor's dad Peter is at some of our tournaments. You won't fit more than 3 Reavers in most 17. That's more than 3 Warlords in most 1750s. So I don't think it's going to be one of those traits that you're replacing all of the Reavers with Warlords. Like I say, like a Warlord to back up a Corsair maniple, I think would be good. Like 1 out of the 3 that you could take it, or adding an extra Warlord into a Fortis maniple or something like that. But it is a little bit less flexible, purely on the price of the model and the maniples that you can fit it in.
Part of me really wants to run a free Warlord Corsair. But the rest of me knows that it is an awful idea.
I think that the thing with that idea, and the reason why I wouldn't do it, is the benefit of the Corsair maniple is that the Reavers are quite agile. So moving what is it, 6 inches to the left or to the right is a considerable amount of distance, especially on the base size it's on. But for a Warlord, 4 inches on a 120mm oval is not a huge amount of distance. No. So you're not going to get the benefit of things like being able to sidestep out of the way of an incoming charge or something like that, or getting yourself behind cover or something. Well, maybe the latter, but It's just a bit more tricky. The Corsair is very maneuverable. It does add additional maneuverability to the Warlord. The main benefit I see of swapping the Warlord in the Corsair is getting that extra punch into a Corsair mana pool and getting a few bonuses to boot.
Yeah, absolutely. You're kind of making me want to buy some Breathers for my Tritonis.
I think
now.
you should buy at least 2, I think.
I just so many for Volpa.
I know, but these will be different. These will be clean ones without any grubbly bits.
Be clean.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I do like painting Tritonis, I'll give you that.
Yeah, and they do look lovely.
Fun.
Yeah. But yeah, it's always nice to have options. It's certainly not a bad rule. I just don't think it's as flexible as other Titan replacement abilities that other Legios have, like Fortidus or Gryphonicus or even Venator. Next up is Revel in the Slaughter. This is another trait. So the Horus Heresy was seen as a way to enact vengeance upon the Imperium, who had shackled their world to a distant overlord. Add 1 to the result of all command checks made by friendly Legio Tritonis Titans for each enemy Titan previously destroyed during this battle to a maximum of 3. So I guess that's like the kind of, you're getting the encouragement and the confidence as you're kind of going along. To me, it seems like a rule which you're probably going to forget.
I'm pretty sure I did. Yeah. And it's also the rule that kind of makes the Blackshield allegiance ability of command check shenanigans basically, pretty mute. What
I know we talked about not corrupting Titans for Legio Tritonis, but I think that this would work quite nicely in a corrupt Tritonis, because once you've killed 1 or 2 Titans, then those corrupt Titans are getting a better command check, because it's not an order check, it's a command check, so all of your machine spirit checks are going to be better as well. And as we've said before, you're probably going to be taking a few Warlords, which have a command of 3 anyway as basic. You're only going to benefit from that once before it's a 2+, and then you always fail on a 1. So the heavier Titans aren't going to get much benefit from this. Warhounds would benefit from this. But again, it's one of those things you've got to remember and probably have a little counter that you keep, like, okay, that's that one tick. That means I'm on a +1 to all of my rolls. I imagine myself, I would forget this rule. But
I try so hard to remember it, but
it's a nice one though, I think. But it depends on how quickly you're intending on killing Titans, because you're probably not going to.
I guess if you're bringing heavy stuff along, right? Assuming you aren't also against a heavy mana pool, you're looking to kill stuff pretty quickly, or you've got bigger problems than getting bonuses to your command checks.
Yes, yeah. I guess what I'm coming at is that you probably won't see this bonus come into play before turn 2 at the earliest. In most cases, you probably won't see anything significantly benefiting you until turn 3 onwards. You might be on a +1 on turn 2, for instance. Later on in turn 2 in the combat phase, you might get it earlier, but there's no downside to it. It's nice to have. It doesn't blow me away, but like I say, I think there's a bit of play in there to kind of help corrupt Titans and those sort of Warhound heavy Titans as well, which commander 5+ is always a little bit tricky.
Dodgy.
The difference between a 5+ and a 4+ is pretty huge when it comes to command checks. So yeah, not bad.
It's also worth noting as well, specifically enemy Titans destroyed, so no knights, none of that. No easy kills.
And it has to be I'm rereading that wrongly. No, so ignore that. It doesn't have to be anything.
Doesn't have to be anything. Just got to kill stuff.
Just got to kill stuff, and it has to be Titans.
Yeehaw.
This next one, in my opinion, is like Tritonis's prestige, so to speak. This is the Legio-specific stratagem Stygian Veil. A vanguard of Arachnus tech cadres would accompany the Legio Tritonis to battle, deploying esoteric devices that could temporarily shroud a portion of the battlefield in impenetrable darkness. This stratagem can be purchased by any Legio Tritonis player. Play this stratagem during any strategy phase. The Legio Tritonis player may immediately pick up to 3 points anywhere on the battlefield. Each point must be at least 10 inches away from a previously chosen point. Any section of the battlefield within 3 inches of a chosen point blocks line of sight, and any non-Legio Tritonis unit within 6 inches or more of 1 point suffers a -2 penalty on command checks they make. At the start of the end phase, the stratagem's effects end.
You don't even need that last command check bit for that to be one of the best stratagems in the game.
3 concealment barrages, 3 6-inch diameter.
It's not large blast.
Yeah.
not large blast templates, bigger than that.
Yeah. If you want to nullify and just focus on, like, I mean, you could, with that much, I mean, I know you can't place them within 10, was it 10 inches, did I say? 10 inches away from each other. So you'd have to leave like a little bit of a, probably like a 4-inch, well, there'd be a gap. Or would there? No, because you could deploy them.
No, because
12-inch. Yeah, they would overlap. They would overlap, wouldn't they? Because they're 6 inches.
Yeah.
You could basically shut off an entire quarter of a table with this, if you wanted to.
Yeah. And the -2 to command checks.
Yeah.
Actually, in both both the practice games, no, the 3 practice games I played and the game we played as well, did come into effect.
Did you
in some shape or form?
Oh, you did take it, didn't you? In our game.
No, not in the bat rep, in the game that we played before.
Yes.
Yeah.
Minus, and it's command checks again. It's not orders. It's your orders. It's your machine spirit checks. It's awful, in a good way. And there's something later. We'll come back to this later on, which allows you to do something else, which is even more gross, or makes that even more gross. But it's good.
It does have its limitations, as well. It's 3 points, 3 stratagem points, which is a big sink. Everyone that's going against you knows you're going to take it. I mean, obviously now it's open information, but if they know they're going up against Tritonis, they know that they can kind of, tailor themselves accordingly. Because it's start of strategy or at any point during a strategy phase as well, stuff like Warhounds can just move out of it. They've got the movement to just completely avoid it. But against like equally heavy mana pools or more stationary mana pools, you set up your own fire lanes. You dictate for a turn, or possibly more. We'll get to that in a minute. Where you want, to be open and visible on the battlefield. So you can just have like 1 or 2 enemy titans be able to see you, and all of your titans be able to see them, and the rest of them are just blocked off by this barricade. It really can be punishing if used correctly. I
mean, obviously you are blocking your own line of sight off against them. However, if you need to get some cheeky emergency repairs out there on yourself, or you literally want to go, okay, well, that guy's, some of these deployments now are kind of quartered. I'm going to shut off this entire quarter. I'm just going to focus on those guys for a turn. Maybe they're the fast guys, they're the slow guys, but they're the heavy hitters. I'll just cut them off. All of a sudden, there's no warlord shooting at you or something. Then, it's a very, very good stratagem. I would put it in probably one of the top. I was going to say top 10, but I think maybe even top 5. Oh yeah,
I would say definitely top 5.
Yeah, but it is expensive. That's the downside. But with the open hands now, like you say, you have, I think it's 6 cards in a hand for 1750. One of these would be Stygian Veil, and that threat is always there, but obviously the other opponent knows you've got it in your hand, and you choose to use it if you want to.
If 70% of the time we will use it on first turn to block the enemy from shooting you with their big stuff. Yeah. But, you can always just save it for later on in the game. If you get flanked or...
If you are carrying an objective and you need to get that, a guy off, for instance, put Stygian Veil down, that guy can't be shot now, and they've got a whole turn that they can do what they need to do.
Yeah.
Right, the last one. This is a war gear option. Radiative warheads. Uncaring of the damage done to the planets they conquered, the Legio Tritonis quickly implemented the use of warheads that contained a radiation-heavy payload that placed great strain upon void shields. Any Legio Tritonis Titan armed with either Apocalypse missile launchers or an Apocalypse missile launcher may be equipped with radiator warheads for 25 points, as long as that Titan radiative warheads for 25 points, as long as that Titan does not have already have an upgrade affecting that weapon. Each weapon a Titan is armed with must be upgraded separately. When making an attack with a weapon with this upgrade against a target with active void shields, each roll of 6 counts as 2 hits. So, a couple of things here. It says it's obviously Apocalypse missile launchers and Apocalypse missile launcher, which means you can't take this on a War Master, for instance, because it doesn't. Some of them, some other similar things call out the batteries. This doesn't, so you have to take it on a Reaver or a Warlord.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this book was released after that as well. Yeah. So that is specifically excluding the real big boys.
The other thing which often comes up with the question of this is the whole, as long as it doesn't have an upgrade affecting this weapon. There's always been a lot of debate as to whether the tracking gyros affect the weapon or the Titan. We've always ruled that the wording says specifically Titan, so you could take tracking gyros and you could take this. The example that we use in comparison to kind of back that up is that things like homing warheads or hardened carapace say specifically they upgrade a weapon. So you couldn't take hardened carapace on the same thing that you took radiative warheads, but you could take tracking gyros and radiative warheads. It basically gives you rapid on shield hits with missile launches, which is pretty nice.
Yeah, really, really nice. Exploding 6s are always, when you're rolling that many dice, with Apocalypse missile launchers, you're guaranteed to get there was a couple of instances I think in the bat rep where I ended up with more hits than dice I rolled.
It's pricey,
which is always
though.
Quite funny. Yes.
25 is a lot. When you factor that in with it being 25 for the tracking gyros as well, if you were running
15 for the missile launchers.
Yeah. Is it 15 for the missile launchers? Oh, for the actual missiles.
The actual missile launchers themselves, yeah.
So, but you're adding 50 points on top of the base cost of the Titan, just with war gear, if you're choosing to take both of those, which is 100 points if you take more than one Warlord. So, pricey. I don't think it's something that you would take on everything. I personally, and I think you do this the same as well, I would be taking this on Warlords, where you've got, those big 10 dice. I wouldn't be spending 25 points. Or would I? Because on a Reaver, you're only adding 25 points.
True. Because you don't have to worry about the tracking gyro.
No. Because it's 360. So maybe that is the most cost-effective way of doing it, because what you've got on the back is a 5 dice mega bolter against shields, effectively, which can barrage and one less dice, 6s explode. It's decent. It's expensive, but it's decent. I don't think you'd take this on everything, but it would be worth if you're taking like 3 Reavers, for instance, and 1 or 2 of them have got missiles and the other ones have got other things, then 100 points might be worth taking it. Comes down to whether or not that's worth more to you than taking a Banner of Armiger Knight or something like that, which are quite cheap these days, assuming you've got other knights that you can run with them, as I discussed earlier. But no, not bad. Not the most amazing war gear, quite expensive, but adds a nice bit of flavour, opens up some options, certainly adds a bit more punch to that opening salvo.
No, 100%.
Okay. Shall we talk traits?
Let's do it.
So, 3 as usual. First one, Tactical Genius. The Princeps is a natural leader able to quickly react to their foes and adapt a battle plan to counter any change in fortunes. When the Princeps is on the battlefield, the player may re-roll the dice when determining who will be the first player. If they do so, the Princeps Titan cannot be activated in the following strategy phase. It started off well and ended badly for me personally.
Mm-hmm.
Now that you're choosing stratagems in match play, stratagems, personal traits, why would you take this and not dominant strategist? Because, fair enough that you can use this every turn. Well, you can't use this every turn. You can use it every turn, but then you are losing out on strategy phases to do orders. So unless you have a Titan which you're not going to do any orders for, or minimal amounts of orders, I don't know if that is better than having dominant strategist. Well, what is better than dominant strategist? It's probably one of the best ones in the game. But like being able to just take it and say, right, well, I'll have that.
Whereas this is just a reroll as well. It's not like if you're guaranteed to get it, you re-roll.
It's not a terrible one if you're rolling. I'll say. If you were rolling a D3 on this and you got that, it's a nice thing to have. I don't know.
There are definitely worse traits.
Yeah, I don't know if I would be picking that over some of the other ones myself. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, no, just the fact that obviously it's not guaranteed. Why wouldn't you take dominant strategist?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, second one, Lust for Vengeance. The Princeps values damage to their Titan as the greatest insult a foe can give and will strive to ensure the perpetrator is torn apart in return. Once per game, when the Princeps Titan suffers critical damage, the Titan may respond in kind. After resolving all of the effects of an attack that caused the critical damage, the Princeps Titan may immediately make a single attack with any of its non-disabled weapons against the unit that caused the critical damage. If this attack destroys the enemy units, the opponent's activation ends. That's good. Yeah,
that's good.
That's good.
I think the real gem in that is it is not the first time that Titan takes critical damage. It is when that Titan takes critical damage once per game. It may, it is a may ability. So if you're getting shot from behind, you don't just lose it, right?
Yeah.
Or you have to shoot it with your Ardex or something dumb like that. I mean,
it is only one weapon that you're shooting, right? But a free attack is always good. It's the same like when you fail your machine spirits and you get to attack. It's a bonus activation. Assuming it's not in your turn, which like when you're pushing your shields and stuff, getting a free shot out of sequence is good. And if somebody's hitting you with blasts and they're potentially scattering this critical damage all across your Titan, then this can be used frequently. Oh no!
No, it's once per game.
It's once per game, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe that's not as awesome as I'm thinking it is, but it's
no. I think it's still really good. I think there definitely with a lot of these, with a few of the scenarios in the new match playbook that require Titans to kill a certain number of Titans or anything like that. I think it could be a really, really good thing to kind of hold back until it's needed. You don't want to be doing it against a Titan that's, full health, shields up. You either do it against a Titan that's within, close enough to ignore shields, or just a Titan that's shields down. Because you're not taking critical damage early on, are you?
No. But my question here is, if your Titan was destroyed, could it still attack? Because it just says after. No, I suppose it's after resolving all of the effects of the attack that caused the critical damage. So if you'd have blown up, that would be an effect of the critical damage. Okay. So I was looking for something in there for similar to like the Tempestus, when they die, they get to shoot things. But I was wondering if that might be something that you'd want to hold back on. But I don't think you can.
No, it'd be dead. You'd have to.
Yeah.
Which is actually really interesting because then you'd have to, play a game of chicken with yourself to see how long you're going to hold on to it for before your Titan just dies anyway.
Interesting thing you could do with this, as long as they're in weapon arc, which is easier now that we've got the kind of any part of the base must be an arc thing. If you got charged by knights, and they cause critical damage, then you could open up with your Sun Fury or your other thing, right?
Yeah.
And just blow them away.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, that might be something worth holding out for, but that obviously is dependent on them not charging you in the front or not charging you and being anywhere in your flank. Yeah, interesting one. Again, if I rolled it, I think I'd be okay with that. There's other things that I think that this to me feels like if you were taking a demi maniple, 2 demi maniples, for instance, this might be a nice one to have on one, and then have something a bit more potent on the other, just to add a bit of flavour. But yeah, not bad, not the greatest, not bad, pretty good. Yeah, happy with that.
Pretty standard.
The last one is Leader of Arachnus. So the Princeps is highly respected on their homeworld and has an army of retainers, tech priests and strategists that will gladly follow them into battle. The presence of this Princeps within the battle group allows it to purchase the Legio-specific stratagem Stygian Veil multiple times, with each purchase after the first costing 2 stratagem points instead of 3. Though the stratagem can be purchased multiple times, it can only be played once per phase. Now,
Booyah.
Again, since the introduction of a stratagem hand has been introduced, I think that's quite nice, because you're not spending all of your stratagem points on one card. That one card becomes part of the 6 in a 1750 that you would have. You can just use that multiple times. It would be your whole 5 points to use it. But you could take other things, and again, if you were taking this in a demi maniple, it gives a lot of threat to what you can do, even if you don't intend to spend all 5 points on Stygian Veil. You can, if you want to, and if the situation sort of would depend on it, and it adds that. I was concerned when they introduced the whole open hand that it would take away a lot of the surprise, but actually what I found is it creates quite a lot of second guessing of yourself. It's like, which one is they going to use? Is he going to use that? Is he going to use that? Which one am I more afraid of? Do I need to hold back a stratagem myself to kind of counter if they're going to play that? And I would be tempted in that situation. Again, you have another maniple which has got something a bit more potent, like a bit more reliable in it, like, you know, maybe you do take the often lamented dominant strategist, or maybe something a bit more straightforward, like favoured by fortune, which is good, you know, every round. And then your second one, you take this, and you're basically saying, well, do you remember that thing that I did to you in the first turn? I can do that again now. And like you say, if your objective is all about taking an objective and getting off the board, and their objective is all about slow Titans moving forward or something, well, you know what? I'm going to give myself 2 turns of complete cover. It might not be the most exciting of games, but you would be able to. I mean, that's just we've
pick and choose. Stygian Veil lets you pick and choose your fights, and being able to do that twice a game, even if you're behind, could help you swing it massively to your favour.
So that's a good one. I do like that. But again, I'm not sure if I would take that in a 1 maniple force, just because again it's a one trick pony. It's not really adding anything else. I like things that you can get a lot of use out of, or a significant use out of, and like things like Dominant Strategist is a once per game ability, but it adds something different. Whereas that you're not only, you know, if that was like play it again as part once per game, play that again, then that would be a whole different level of ridiculousness. But you still got to spend the extra 2 stratagem points, so there's still a cost to it, although it is slightly cheaper the second time. But it's good, you know, taking that twice. I like I say, just from a threat perspective, even if you're not planning on doing it, because before with a closed hand, if you said, oh well, he's got this, all chances are that your entire hand was going to be your 1 card that you can play twice, and there's no surprise to it, because you didn't have the option of changing it. And why would you take that if you weren't going to use it, because you're just basically doing yourself out of a Princeps ability. Whereas now you can take that and you can bluff with other cards or make them worry too much about the Stygian Veil so they don't bunch up too much, so you can spread them out a little bit more. Interesting. Lots of tactical options there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, having played them a few times, what's your kind of final thoughts on Tritonis?
Oh, I love them. I think they're really good fun. You know, they're not as I guess in depth as other Legios can get. You can pretty much run them however you want. Although, you know, Tide of Iron lets you replace the Reavers for the Warlords. Nothing really in the rules is super pushing you to one specific playstyle. Stygian Veil itself can be used for basically any kind of force. So I think there's just for someone that suffers a lot with decision paralysis in games, it's nice just to be able to go, right, okay, I know what I'm doing here. I've got some big Titans to shoot across the board. I can choose, you know, even if I misdeploy or if I maybe move into an area that is a bit sketchy, I can, you know, defend myself. I have a way to get out of a tricky situation that you don't really get with a lot of other Legios quite easily.
And I think versatile is probably a word that I would think, you know, like
Toolbox Legio.
Yeah, there is nothing in there, like you say, which is saying, right, well, you're going to benefit from taking these types of weapons. You know, okay, obviously you are probably want to take at least one missile, maybe.
Yeah.
But you're not really kind of heavily focused on that. So I wouldn't be tempted to build around that. I would, you know, throw a smattering of them in here or there, and the rest of it you can leave up to your own, you know, your own wishes. There's not going to be anything which, like you say, is really pigeonholing you.
Yeah.
In what you do. And don't be afraid of not using the Tide of Iron. It is the Tide of Iron one, isn't it? As the
yeah. I didn't use it.
Yeah, because it could be a trap, but it offers you versatility if you want to take it. So come up with a game plan and use it. I like them. I was very tempted to do them myself. There was a point where I was considering doing them before I decided to do my Tempestus. They have a lot of options in there, and like I say, like although some people won't run them with corruptions, you can definitely double down on the corruption side of things and get some benefits from their rules that way. So depending on how you want to build them, there's a lot of things that you can do. Nice Legio. Check out the battle report and you'll see them in action. And also you'll get to see Johnny's beautiful paint job. Do you want to spend just a minute or two just talking about how you went about painting yours?
Yeah. Man, it's a relatively quick job that actually looks quite nice once it's done. Using a range of kind of like sea greens to build up in layers from like dark to bright, like just to get those nice little bright spots that you see on the armor, and leaving it just kind of go dark towards the trim. I imagine Alex is probably bringing maybe an image up on screen or something like that as I'm going through this.
Certainly can do.
Yeah, Vallejo metal colors on the trim. I like, so my big thing, I think we went through this a little bit in the or quite a bit in the starting your hobby pod that we did. My big thing with a lot of my paint jobs is to do like a primary, secondary, and tertiary color for a lot of my schemes. So in this one, I made it like the sea green, the very dark sea green, as my primary color. White was my secondary in a lot of like the panels, and then red was my tertiary. So like the eyes glowed red, the plasma glowed red for the most part, and the missile launchers had red tips, right? And those colors together, like I was kind of just slapping them on a test model, and I was like, oh yeah, this is this is the mix I want to see. And yeah, and I went for because they're quite. It became quite dark. Like a lot of the provided artwork it shows quite a dark Legio. So I went for a snow base, which is why I'm building. One of the reasons why I'm building a snowboard. And it really kind of amps the contrast between the bright base and then like a very, very dark mottled Titan on top. So, yeah.
And you got yourself some Legio Tritonis transfers from the guys at the guy at Scumbag Customs.
Hell yeah. Way before even even we kind of introduced him to the channel and to the group of people. I saw him commenting on, I think it was an unrelated game as well, and I was like, oh yeah, can you do this? And they arrived so quick from Hong Kong.
Tokyo, I think it is.
Tokyo,
Japan. I don't know if it's Tokyo specifically, but he's based in Japan.
Insane, really, really good quality. And yeah, they suit the Legio quite nicely.
I think he certainly benefited from a bit more business since joining our Discord, because our guys are relentless saying, do you have, or can you make me decals for this Legio and that Legio? So like we have a channel, the Scumbag Customs channel up on our Discord, and all of the designs which I've noticed I've pinned, so you can have a look through all of the pinned messages and see all of the different types of transfers that he does for AT. But he does loads. He generally specializes in the ones which don't have transfers already. So if you have like Audax and you want some transfers for Audax, he does some Audax transfers. Tritonis, my Lania Scara ones were from him. I've just had him make up some House Divine ones for my Knights. He's got a ton. If you're looking at a lesser known Legio, which isn't supported by GW for transfers, then Scumbag Customs is your man for those. And they really pop on your model as well, don't they? They really, like you say, that bright red really lifts the kind of overall colour. Really, really good quality. Really, really kind of like, they feel like just using normal Games Workshop ones. You just got to... Oh, sorry, go on. I was going to say, you just got to remember that because they're printed on a solid sheet, you do have to cut quite close to the actual decal. Unlike GW ones, where they're kind of, the decal is the shape of the transfer. It's just a solid sheet. So if you are printing a circle, for instance, if you can cut as closely as you can around the circle and cut it as close to the image, you'll get a much better finish. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that caught me off guard the first time I started sticking them down. I was just cut out a square and I was like, oh crap, there's a square sheet of clear stuff and then the red circle in the middle. No, but if you do want our rundown of the way we paint stuff, just drop us a message on Discord or ask it in one of the channel chats. I think there was a plan at some point in the past for us to do individual hobby how we do our Legios, masterclasses, and a corruption one that's been floating around for quite a while. But we just want to get bat reps and podcasts out at the moment with the limited time we have. So in the meantime, before we ever get around to doing those, just drop us a message on Discord, join the channel. And should make yourself a video of how you paint them, get them up alongside my Tritonis painting guide. Yeah. Not Tritonis, my Tempestus. No, I was about to say, I was like, you've already got one. No. Yeah. Yeah, maybe in the new year. Maybe see if we've got any hair left after beachhead. We'll wait until after the tournament. Okay. Any final thoughts? The embargo on giving Alex shit hasn't lifted, so if you do want to send him abuse, again, you can find him on Discord. Thanks. You're welcome, mate. Yeah, I know you're really worried about that, so I just wanted to reaffirm to the community that it is okay to bully you. Yeah, I was really worried that people weren't giving me enough shit. So. Yeah, I was equally concerned that people would see it as a poor representation of Volpa. So it's cool that the community decided the correct person to be mean to. I'm the obvious target, I think. Yeah. But yeah. Anyway, moving swiftly on. So there you go, guys. I hope you've enjoyed listening to us today. really interesting Legio Tritonis. Lots of scope, beautiful colour scheme. Fairly underrepresented in the community, not as much as some. But if you're looking for something a little bit different, or maybe you actually want to try out a proper Black Shield and play them as a proper Black Shield, then they are your boys. But as always, thank you very much for tuning in. Please do remember to give us a like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. If you're not and you're listening to us or watching us on a podcast platform, please leave us a review or leave us a 5-star. 5-star, what do they call them? Rating. Yeah, that'll do.
Click the 5-star button.
Yeah, click the 5-star button. Leave us a review. All of it helps. And like I say, even if you don't watch us on YouTube, please consider just subscribing to the channel. Help us reach that 1,000 target goal. It'd be awesome if we could do that by the end of the year and start next year really, really strong. So hopefully we'll see you all soon. We probably won't be recording another one of these before the new year and before Christmas. I forgot, actually, I planned on joining this with my Santa hat on, but I totally forgot.
Oh.
I know, but
we've got them in the bat wrap.
We've got some Santa hats in the bat wrap. So
for 2 minutes until we got fed up with them and tore them off.
The irony there as well was we recorded the bat rep in the middle of November, so it was wearing Santa's hats in November. We were prepared and we were hoping that the timing would work out well. Thank you very much for listening, guys. It's a big thank you from me, and I guess it's a thank you. I was going to leave that open for you, and it's a thank you from me as well. But I didn't want it to be a huge amount of silence as I did something new and then handed over to you.
Okay, yeah. Cheers, guys.
Yeah, thank you. Until next time, please do keep an eye out. We'll get some more content to you as soon as we can. And always remember to go big, go loud,
and go Maximal.